So, thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be here, even though clearly you're here for the pizza, but still. My name is Amer Mohammed. Um, I am a little bit about me. I'm an entrepreneur, so I've had a couple of startups. I failed a couple and I crashed some and I sold some. So, after selling my latest one, I was recruited into the Stena group. You know about Stena, the big conglomerate, yeah. So after I sold my latest startup around 4 years ago, a headhunter called me and asked me if I wanted to meet with Stena. And up until that point, I've only worked in my own companies. So asking me to work for Stena is like asking me to join the IRS. It didn't seem so interesting. But I thought, free lunch is a free lunch. So I met with them, and I was now in hindsight, I was really arrogant. I told them exactly what I thought about big companies and what their problem is and all that, and they will all die and so on. And because I didn't need the money really, I was investing in a couple of startups in Gothenburg. So I left that meeting like after 2 hours, and I thought I would never hear from them again. But then they called me back like 3 hours later, and they asked if I wanted to join. Uh, I said, yeah, sure, why not? So I joined as uh, in IT. Back then there was an IT. Today there is no IT. But back then there was an IT that was taking care of all the Stena companies. So I joined there as an advisor, app advisor or something like that. I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to do, but I was handsomely paid. That's an important part. And after a couple of weeks, I started when you run a startup, you have this great respect for big companies because you're thinking, they must be really smart to make all those billions. So after a couple of weeks, I started realizing that uh, they didn't know shit about their business, and I was shocked about that. So, for instance, because coming from the app world, metrics was something very natural to us. So we knew everything. How many downloaded the app, how many opened it, how many closed it down, how many pressed login, how many closed it down after. If people opened the app within 3 hours after the first time, how high was the retention rate then, and blah, blah, blah. So we knew everything, and everyone in the whole company knew all that. But in a big company, no one knew anything. And they were just guessing, and people had opinions like it was a church, and stuff like that. No facts, no nothing. So I was shocked about this. So I sent an email to the top management of Stena Line, and I told them that my name is Amer Mohammed, and you need to meet me. And then of course, they were asking, who is this guy? No respect, just emailing us like that. So I went there and I did a presentation for them, and I basically told them what you're doing is all wrong. And this is bullshit, and you should be embarrassed, and blah blah blah. And I mean, the reaction either they didn't really know how to react because they wasn't sure who I was. I was so new, and why I was so cocky and so on. So there is this. It's called the Stena Day. So what happens during that day is all the companies that the Olson family still owns. All the Stena companies are privately owned by the Olson family in Gothenburg. So once a year, they all fly over to Gothenburg, and you have all the CEOs of the different companies, the board of directors, the top management, and the family in the front. And it's basically, trying to impress the family how good you're doing and so on. So IT was never allowed to present there, but this year they were given the chance to present, and they knew me from previously. I was a good presenter, so they asked me to present. And I said, yeah, sure, but I'm not telling you, I'm not going to show you the presentation beforehand. And they said, no, you cannot do that. You have to show us. I said, okay, sure. So I showed them the presentation. They said, no, 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 this is not true. You cannot do these claims. I said, yeah, okay, no problem. But then before the presentation, I went backstage and I flipped them to the original one because I thought, fuck it. Either I go out with a bang or it will be a success. Let's see what happens. So I showed the original presentation, and I'll show you. I what I did was I actually paid for a movie to be made because I didn't want them to know about that. So I did it myself, and I paid for it, and I used it during this presentation to introduce something to the Olson family and to the management. And I'll show you this movie now. That's good enough. People's lives are the result of the choices they make. Choices based on needs. For us at Stena Line, knowing our customers' needs has always been a top priority, the basis of our service offering. This is Jenna. Jenna is a customer. At Stena, we want to please everyone. We want to connect with our customers in the most relevant way, understanding their needs so that we can enhance their experience. But even our best intentions fade in the noise. So our way forward is not only understanding their digital patterns, but also predicting their next move. To get to know them better. To do so, we need to shift focus from opinions to facts, facts to insights, insights to actions. Our way forward is not only a system, not simply a tool. It's you, it's us, it's together, being creative and feeling enabled. This is Jenna. Jenna is our customer. So what I did was I created this movie and then I released this Pluto concept. And then I said, basically, I said that within 10 years, all of Stena's companies will be run by this AI. And that's the thing they didn't want me to say because who knows. But I was thinking, 10 years, you have plenty of time to figure it out. So I said that, and you could see immediately the reaction of IT. They just wanted to, the manager, my boss back then, wanted to explode basically. And it felt like an eternity, but after like 3 or 4 seconds, Mr. Don Sten Olsson, the owner of everything, he stood up and started applauding. And obviously, if the Godfather applauds, everyone else has to do the same. So it turned out well, and I was promoted to Stena Line as director of innovation. So that's where it all started. And if you noticed in that movie, I never talked about technology. I myself I'm a programmer. So I've been a programmer since I was 9. I'm not a data scientist. I know in media I'm called the AI guru. I'm not a data scientist at all. I'm just a techie and a nerd, and I like science fiction. So if you mix those together, then you can come up with some crazy shit. One of the things I'm going to show you an example of that. So, but I knew I always read. I'm a nerd, so I read a lot of articles and so on. So I read a lot of published articles by famous data scientists around the world, researchers and so on. I read about. I don't think I read everything. I just read, the conclusion. I don't understand the details. I read about patents that companies, hand into the English, the American version of Patentverket, just to see, what is going on, what are people thinking about, what are the trends, and so on. So I knew this was 3 years ago. I did this movie, and I knew that even though AI and so wasn't on the wall back then, people were starting to talk about big data and data lakes and all that. But to me, even though I'm a techie, I understand that. But I never understood how I can go to a CEO and tell him the words big data. What is he supposed to get from that? I never understood that. So I knew that, but I knew it was important. So I was thinking, okay, let's do something like this movie where we talk about the benefits. What is it for? What is its purpose? What is the end game? And then if it's big data or pen and paper or Lego, he doesn't give a shit about that. He just wants to know, how can you make me money? I mean, every business leader thinks like that. It's not strange. So I started the company on a path towards artificial intelligence using that movie. And if you Googled Stena Line and artificial intelligence 2015, you had zero mentions. Today, this is actually old. Now it's more than 4,000. So, a funny story, the CEO was in a shipping conference in Singapore a couple of months ago. And he was, hello, yes, hello, Niklas, CEO, Stena Line. Oh, Stena Line, the AI company. So they went from a shipping company to an AI company within the shipping industry. And uh, and this is also if you're from Gothenburg, then you think that's funny. So there's a lot of examples of what we're doing in AI, and it's not about self-driving ships. That's easy. It's not about that. It's about all the rest of the company. Uh, and also something that really helped me also a lot was that I became the mentor for Don, the digital mentor. So we have this reverse mentorship where I mentor him in digital technology and behaviors and so on. And I mean, he's one of the most powerful people in the world. So it's very humbling to talk to him. But it's also, he enjoys it a lot because I don't care how powerful he is. I always speak my mind and I tell him when he's bullshitting, when he gets angry and then we yell at each other. But it's fun, he's a business person. He doesn't take shit personally. So I learn a lot from him and he hopefully learns a lot from me. And this kind of support is important, if you want to change a very old company that have done business in a one way in 70 years. So the first thing, if you want to tell people to follow you, is you need to have a message. Like Bill Gates, a computer on every desktop, or the iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket. You must have a message. Otherwise, it's just no one cares. So the message we created was this: the world's first cognitive ferry operator. Actually, the message was a little bit easier, but they changed it to something more fancy. But the original one was by 2021, Stena Line will be fully assisted by artificial intelligence. To me, that sounds easier to understand than this. But anyway, this is the public version. And once we had the message, it tied into this word, and I'm pretty sure you hate it as much as I do: digitalization. And one thing you need to understand, because this is how companies and bigger organizations did digitalization before. They started with analytics, big data, data lakes, Azure, or AWS, things like that. They never say what it's for. And this is very important to understand. Digitalization is not analytics. You cannot go to a CEO and say, yeah, we have to put our data in the cloud and we create some dashboards and we get some insights. Then what? It's pointless. No one will care about that. Uh, so, in order to make the CEO and the rest of the organization understand how important artificial intelligence is, I created this image that shows a little bit about why technology is so important to pay attention to. So, throughout the history of mankind, you can see here that it's always technological breakthroughs that have pushed humanity forward in a radical way, change our biology and change the way we do business and our behavior. If you look just at the penicillin, a simple example, up to the point of the discovery of the penicillin, it took 2,000 years for nature to increase the human lifespan with 10 years. 2,000 years. Penicillin did the same thing in 15. So what previously took 2,000 now took 15. And you know about the technologies coming now with CRISPR and all those gene editing technologies, where you can basically remove any disease. And then we have nanotechnology. I just read a couple of weeks ago they used a nanobot to inject a sperm into an egg. You read about that? You should read more. Anyway, so nanobots are reality as well, and those two combined will, my son, he's 4 years old today. He will be 150, not because of his biology will be better, but because he can fix himself much better. There are no diseases, no Parkinson, no Alzheimer's, no cancer, no nothing. That in combo with the nanotechnology coming now, and the 3D printing of parts and body parts and so on, he will live to 150. No problem at all. And how are we prepared for that as a society? I mean, you know the Försäkringskassan, for people in Sweden. It took them 10 years to implement the system. 10 years. And these technologies are 15 years away. So how will society cope with the fact that people will live 70 years longer all of a sudden? What happens to the pension system? Our whole society is built around the concept of marriage. Marriage will go away. That was something invented when we married when we were 16 and we died when we were 34. But if you live to 150, will you be married to the same person 130 years? No. So marriage will go away. But our society is built around the concept of marriage. Every law, every rule we have, and so on. So 6 iPhone models away, I'm talking, not more. And what is coming is bigger than all those combined in terms of change for our society, the way we do business, and so on. So this is why AI is so important. Uh, so the message I had to the board of directors for the Stena Line is that digitalization is about becoming autonomous. And that's what we need to transform into as a business. And this is true for every company in the world in any industry. The purpose of digitalization is to become fully autonomous. That's the end game for anything you do in your digital strategy roadmap. And it's not like, you know, it's the same like the car industry. It's not like you're becoming autonomous next week. It will also happen in steps. Have you seen this map from the car industry? So every car manufacturer, they agree on this map. They say there are different levels of autonomy. Every car manufacturer also believes that this is the end game. Every car will be fully autonomous eventually. Without steering wheel, without pedals, no nothing. It's just a box you sit in and it drives away. That's already existing today, but every car manufacturer agrees. Elon Musk thinks this will happen next week. Volvo thinks 2030. But that's not the point. Everyone agrees. That's the point. And it will happen in steps. So we have some simple cruise control, and then we have some pilot assist like the new Volvos and the Audis and the Teslas. And then we have more advanced where the seat can flip towards each other, and then it goes back to it reverses when you enter, when you get close to your destination, and so on and so forth. So to be able to convert this to the organizational view, I created together with Dr. Lars Karlsson, which is now the head of AI for Stena Line, this same kind of map but for businesses. We call them levels of autonomy. So it's the same thing here. When I say your purpose is to become autonomous, that doesn't mean it's you get there next Monday. It's a journey, just like for the car industry. So similar steps, where the step 0 is where everyone is doing things manually, and you have silos with data, and you have data popes that thinks they own the data, all that standard stuff. The first thing you need to do is to get your shit in order when it comes to your data, to make it accessible. It doesn't mean you have to do it for the whole company at once. You can start with a function, with a process, or with a single department or a team even. But you get it in order so it can be accessed internally, but also externally. Obviously, you have to anonymize and aggregate it and so on, but it should be accessible externally as well, so that hackers can access it, schools can access it, whoever, doesn't matter. So they can make shit up with it. That's the point, because we cannot make shit up by ourselves, everything in the world. So this is the first step. And this is what most people think digitalization is. They say big data. We're doing big data. That's our digitalization. But as you can see in this map, if you zoom out a little bit, it's only the first step. When you're finished there, the second step is to use machine learning as to support your decisions, like a recommender system, stuff like that. I'll give you an example of that. Level 3 is to have that machine take over those decisions completely. 4 and 5 is a little bit further away, 4, 5, 6, 7 years away, but you have algorithms that can come up with their own hypothesis on why things are happening. And in level 5, which is the final level, you have machines that come up with ideas but also test them out in production by themselves. So this is the journey, the 10-year journey Stena Line is on. And when we say the world's first cognitive, we mean reaching number 3. I'm not there anymore, but they mean. So, and the reason we're doing that is not because we want an entity in the cloud that makes money for the Olson family and no one has to work. That's not the point. The point is that during the information age, technology was very expensive. So only the big companies used that to crush the competitors because only them could afford it. Today, that's not true anymore. All the AI solutions that I'm going to talk about and what we built in Stena Line was open source. There is nothing we don't have language professors that train our chatbot in natural language processing. Of course not. We use whatever Amazon and Google and all those companies come up with. It's not our core competence. So every AI solution is built on an open source project. Or we just buy a service for $99 a month. So anyone can do what we do. Any two startup founders can just release something and completely destroy our industry. So how will we compete then as a brand? There's only one way we can do that, and that's with the experience, with our brand. So we are automating not to fire everyone. We're automating to shift focus. Or we have to double our staff, but that's not feasible. And just to give you an example, Netflix did not kill Blockbuster. They weren't after Blockbuster. They even never mentioned Blockbuster in their plans. They went after the experience. Same thing with Uber. Do you think Uber did a competitive analysis of 600,000 taxi companies in the world and pinpointed every weakness for every company and that's how we will destroy them and that's how we will destroy them? No, they went after the experience. It cost me 600 kroners to go one way to the airport, but 720 the other way. Why? Because they can do that, the taxi companies. But with Uber, you cannot do that. You see the price beforehand. And that's how they crushed every taxi company. Same thing with Apple. They love the music industry. The point was not to kill the music industry. The point was if you want one single from a 200 kroner album, why can I not just pay, if you take those 12 songs or whatever it is, only buy that song? I don't know, are you old enough? Some of you are old enough, but when you used to buy CDs, you buy an album for 200 and then you wanted a single, you still pay 140 because it was a single plus 8 remix versions. You remember that? So why? I only wanted one song. So Apple only made it available to buy one song. That's all. One song, $1. That was the whole purpose of iTunes. Nothing else. But they destroyed the industry. Same thing with the rest. This are just examples. So this is one of the illustrations I used, to sell this concept in. I said, okay, if we have our competitor and they're next to us in line, and this is true for many industries. If I want this woman to switch over to our lane, I cannot tell her that, you should switch to us because we have the latest patches on our servers. She doesn't care. Not at all. Or we use native iOS instead of, what's the hybrid called? I don't remember. But we use native Swift when we code our apps. We don't use hybrid libraries. She still doesn't care. The only thing she cares about is the experience. Nothing else. The price, there is no difference in price. We cannot shave off anymore. So it's only the experience, nothing else. And this is true for all companies in every industry. And not only the experience within your own industry. Very often I sit in meetings and I say, you can do this in Snapchat. It's very cool. You should be able to do it in our app as well. No, but Snapchat is social media. This is shipping. I don't know. It's next to each other on the phone. Here's one, here's the other. What am I supposed to tell the customer? For the customer, it's the same. I can do that in banking, then I want to do that in Spotify. I can do that in Spotify, then I want to do that in my training app. I don't care what industries they are. So, and also very important, as soon as a new player enters your market, they will be twice as autonomous as you are from day one. This is a guarantee for any company in any industry, in any market in the world. I'll give you an example. If a shipping company now opens to compete with Stena Line, they will not hire 120 financial controllers because they can just automate whatever they are doing, the financial controllers. They only need 14 maybe because they don't have legacy, so they can use these new services. We cannot. Okay, now they can because they updated, but previously we could not because we have all these legacy systems. So it was basically just the fact of being, if you want to focus on the experience, we need to automate everything that a calculator can do better than a human. Because that's basically what it is. It's giving calculators to financial people. I mean, just imagine before calculators, you could have the same argument. Yeah, we shouldn't invest in calculators. Yeah, but eventually they are just there to help you as a tool. So you can focus on better things, like how to mix with your taxes so you don't have to pay so much. So a couple of those things we did at Stena Line was one thing that got a lot of attention and also award for best chat platform is our chat platform called Stena. Now, I say platform because it's important to understand here that I told you at the start, every time we do something, we have a vision for where we are going and we're building towards that vision. So the same thing with Stena. I mean, I know it's a chatbot. It's basically an FAQ, a glorified FAQ machine, and it doesn't work most of the time. But that's not the point. The point is the vision we believe in was that just like today, if you want, let's say you're going for vacation, you don't go to KLM or Air France or SAS or Finnair to buy a ticket. You go to Expedia or Momondo. You say from here to here, sort by price, direct flight. You don't give a shit about who operates the flight. In 5 or 6 or 7 years or whatever it is from now, the same thing will be even more true with your virtual assistant. You won't talk to a company or go into a web or open an app. You just tell your phone, I need to be in Malmö on Monday and also in Helsingborg the day before. That's it. It goes out, it finds the hotel, it finds the Uber, the taxi, the flight, whatever I need. For that future, we built Stina. Not for today. But to get to that future, we have to take those steps and learnings along the way and failures. Or we wait 5 years and then we panic and then we call a big consultancy company like IBM and we pay them 1 billion kroners and then they help us. Or we do it for the long term. We start now so that we're ready in 5 years. We already scrapped the platform twice and restarted. And it's still the best out there. Try it, you'll see. And then people ask, okay, how did you build it? I mean, if you have a technology background like I have, it's easy to understand that all these big companies like IPsoft, nothing against them, but they have this chatbot, Amelia, and then there are other like Nuance and so on. What they do is, we talk to all those big companies, and they say, yeah, sure, 10 million SEK a year for a license, and then you can use our chatbot. And being a nerd myself, I tell them, okay, but you're using a natural language library that is for sure not 1 million times better than the open source one or the Watson one for $9 a month. Maybe you're 10% better, but you're charging 1,000,000% more because that one is free and you want 1 million. But can it be 1 million times better? Of course not. Then it would be the best. I mean, it would be a human, like talking to a human. So we skipped all that and we just created an own API platform in the cloud that basically what it does is just orchestrates API calls. That's what it does. So it doesn't care what channel it comes from. Today it's available on Facebook Messenger, our own app, email. I think WhatsApp is in beta, and so on, and the web. So regardless of channel, it's routed through to the Stena platform, and then Stena sends it to whatever natural language process we're using right now. Right now it's Watson, but we can change it to Azure ML. We're trying all the time different things. So it sends it to the natural language process service. It gets back the intents. What is the intent of this question? And then using a decision tree, we send it to the right data source to get the answer. That's basically all it does. And you can do that because all the services you need are there. There's a service for sentiment analysis, so we know if the user is angry or hungry or whatever it is. It works very well. It knows immediately if a customer is annoyed or not. So we just send the question there, and then it says, okay, he's happy. Okay, great. And then there is a natural language process, Watson. Natural language understanding, it's an open source. We just host it in the cloud. And then there are a couple more like profanity and stuff like that. It's all just services, API code, nothing else. Just they did it in 6 hours. We don't invent anything here, but we just route the calls. That's all. And we add it to the data source. So if it's a question about timetable, then we go to the time table database. If it's a question about price, then it goes to the price. Even in Slack internally in Stena Line, she's there as well in the channel. You can say, hey Stina, can you show me how much we sold for on Donica last month? It goes to the finance systems and pulls out the data and shows it there. And then I say, can you show me a graph? Yeah, sure. Then we use an image generator and generate a graph. I mean, it's all there. You just have to mix them together. And even now we have a data science team. You can even say, how much will we sell for next week? And it goes to the data science team algorithm and just predicts the sales. So it's a very powerful thing because when we built Stena, we built it to be the next platform, just like the internet or the apps. And when I say messaging here, I mean voice as well. It's the same. But we know we're not there yet, but it's going to get there soon. So we just want to make our mistakes now when they're cheap to make. And then, of course, you get the question, what if it doesn't work? Yeah, what if it doesn't work? I mean, it's not an ABS system. It's a fucking chat. No one cares. No one will die. Right? What will happen if it answers wrong? Today, in my WhatsApp group I have with my families and friends, if someone says something stupid or something wrong or so, what do you do in general? I always show a fail GIF. You know, those funny GIFs where someone fails at something. So why can't we do the same? So when you ask Stina, and she asks, was I able to assist you? No, I'm sorry. People think it's fun. They love it. And we started with 21% correct rate or whatever you call it. 21% 1 year ago. Today it's up to, last time I checked, 82. And the only way to get there is by using it. There's no other way. This actually fucked it up a little bit because it messed with our statistics because people were clicking no just to see the GIF. So we could see in the logs because every time this GIF is shown, we get an alert, you know, so the team can look at it and see what's the problem. But they see, but this is correct. So they ask the user, well, what happened? They said, no, I just wanted to see the GIF. So what we did is we added a GIF for yes as well. Uh, Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's actually a good idea. The thing is, we didn't make this ourselves, but we should actually invest in recording a panda uh, falling over. Then I don't know. You can do that with GIFs? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I'll need your contact info later. So that's what we did there. So this is about the chatbot, and the point of that story is to understand that uh, there is no point in building everything yourself. You just orchestrate whatever is out there. So the second thing I want to talk about is the digital, what I call the digital butterfly effect. So there's a movie about this, but you can look at it at YouTube. If you search Stena Line digital butterfly effect, you will see it there. But something I noticed at the company, I even printed T-shirts and everything. So something I noticed very early in the company is that when you say you're going to automate something, so you go to a process called trade management. What they do is they try to forecast the number of passengers they're going to have. And traditionally, they've done that, using Excel and so on, and they can forecast 30 days into the future. And then IT was asked to build a system for that. And I just came into that project and I asked, okay, how will we build this? So who's doing the models? I assumed it was machine learning being used, but they said, models? How are you going to build this? This is, I mean, there's so many will you just make if statements? There'll be like a billion of them. They said, yeah, that's the idea. Okay, so I said, okay, but I think we can do that differently. So we took 6 weeks and we went to a consultancy company with two data scientists. And I said, can't we do this using machine learning, using the data we have? They said, yeah, let's try it. So within a couple of days, they created the first models. And it turned out that the first models had the same accuracy as the Excel forecasting, around 88, 89%, but they could see 127 days into the future, not only 30. And the whole company is built around 30. Everything that happens after this number to make the ship depart is built on 30. And when you say now you can see 4 times longer, it messes up everything. So it was very, very exciting. So in 6 weeks, and I show you a picture of him at the end. He's a guy, he knows nothing about ships. He's a hacker, 21 years old. No education or nothing. He just works at night and makes shit happen. I don't know how. I never see him in the office. Uh, so he completely destroyed 60 years of experience in 6 weeks, and he doesn't even know those words for left and right for ships. I don't even know them, to be honest, but uh, yeah, exactly those. So he doesn't even know that, but it doesn't matter. He could still destroy the experience we had using his models. Shit, now I have to hurry. You're tempting them. So I have to be more exciting than pizza now. So, uh, but there's no reason to stop here. They said, okay, now we have machine learning models for this. Now it's automated. No, what happens after these numbers come out? Okay, let's try something they've never done before. Is trying to figure out who will be on board, not only how many, but who. So using machine learning and simulations and stuff like that, they started looking into, can we figure out how many children we will have, how many elderly we will have, how many young people, how many old people, and so on. And it turned out we could. So now we added that to the process, which previously was separated, but now it's in the same process. So let's go one step further. What will they buy? Now we're just stocking everything based on gut feeling. But now we could simulate exactly what will they buy. Is it vodka? Is it rum? Is it whiskey? Is it meatballs? Is it Snickers? Is it Twix? So now we started to be able to do that. And let's take it one step further. How much will they buy? So we can know exactly on the meatball, how many meatballs do we need on board on this ship? How many kilos of jam? How much water? And so on. And then we just connect it to the warehouse. and it's restocked and bought in automatically and replenished and then just sent out, scheduled by a driver and just sent out the time of departure. So this took previously 6 weeks for us to finish. Now it takes 6 seconds to simulate and make a decision. And the first 3 months, every step was halted so someone could approve just to make sure it's not fucking up something. After 3 months, we removed a couple of the halts. Now today completely it's automated into the routes of 22. And they're rolling out the rest this year. So let's take it further. One thing, when I go to trade management, I tell them, okay, did you talk to HR? No, but this is trade management. We never talk to HR. You know nothing about this company. I said, yes, but in a digital world with this digital butterfly effect, if we make cloud-based HR systems with competences in the cloud, then we can just through API calls figure out who should work on that departure. If we have a lot of elderly, maybe we need some people that knows CPR. If we have a lot of children, we need people with patience. Things like that. There's no need to do that manually. So automatic staffing is being done now also by machine learning models. And previously, this was a big problem for Stena Line because out at sea, you have to buy, it's called, I don't remember the name, but it's like licenses. So if you have 300 passengers, you must have 20 people on board. If you have 600 passengers, you must have 40, and so on. And we never knew what kind of, and you pay for those different licenses. And sometimes we were at, let's say we were at 250 passengers, and we didn't know, should we open up a new level and hope to fill it, or should we not? But using machine learning models now with high accuracy, this problem is not a problem anymore. And we cannot say to the staff the day before, sorry, no work for you today, because the union doesn't allow it. I'm also annoyed by that, but let's see how long he continues until someone says something. I don't even think he knows. So now this is also done using simulation. And also beforehand, it was like after the departure, 2 weeks after, we could know what the net result was. But now we can know 2 months in advance what the net result will be. So they can take action. Let's say, for instance, that the model says, okay, you will have a minus result here. Then you start looking into why, and then you see, okay, there's a segment missing that usually spends a lot on board. For some reason, they're not on board on this departure. Then the marketing department can kick in and target the marketing towards that segment. And it can be that they are very high spenders on board, but they're very cheap when it comes to the ticket. Then we just give it away for free. Because we know they will spend a lot on board. So that's just an example of that. And this is something that we know. I mean, Stena Line knows, you're not supposed to read this, but Stena Line knows about the complexity if you want to do everything perfect. But this cannot be done in Excel. Everything is connected and we know it, but using traditional methods, it was impossible to optimize. But now with new kind of technologies, it's much easier to optimize this. And also, of course, to sell this in, we're here after the closing hours. To sell this in, I like to make movies. So I made another movie and I'll show it to you now. It's a short one. So this is the movie I showed to the management and to the team, and I said, should we build this? And I said, yeah, sure, for sure. So yeah, I mean, it just looks cool. That was the point of the movie. So this is the team that now, I mean, this was like 1.5 years ago, and this is the guy, 21 years old, maybe he's 22 now, who completely shocked the world of Stena Line. And today, Stena Line is the only shipping company in the world that has an head of AI. No other shipping company in the world has that. And I think they're up to 30 data scientists now. And 3 years ago, they were zero. So they're shifting focus to this new generation of competence, and it's becoming a core competence. So everything that is built in Stena Line goes through this team. Everything. It doesn't matter what it is. HR, finance, logistics, port and harbor, whatever it is, it goes through the data science team and head of AI. And they always ask themselves the same question: can this be automated? If yes, they do it in an automated way. If no, we need to make sure to build it in a way so it's easy to update for when the technology is ready. Every 6 months, whatever was a no 6 months ago, all of a sudden is a yes. Because Facebook and Amazon and all those, they release so much all the time that makes it easier for us to automate things. And I said there at the start, how we make sure that our data is also available to the public or to the outside. Because in an ecosystem, it's not about being the best; it's being the best for the ecosystem. That is very. Otherwise, you're just a predator, and eventually someone will eat you. But if you're very valuable to the ecosystem, like Apple, just look at Apple. They have shitty phones, but they're still very strong because they're very good for the ecosystem. Extremely good for the ecosystem. That's the only reason I use iPhone still, because of their ecosystem. So if you want to stay strong and be strong in your market, make sure that you think like this and not like this. Yeah, I think that's all I had for now.